Hello， 大家好，我是 Cecily， 又跟大家见面了。这次的占星观察室里面，我又邀请了另外一位在国际间呢也是享有盛名，并且也是在世运占星相当有研究的一位资深的占星老师。那这位占星老师呢，他是 Garcia 老师，他呢与另外一位老师 Joy Wuxian， 他们在澳洲有成立一个学校，叫做 Saturn-Neptune。这一次呢，我先邀请了 Garcia 老师呢，这位校长来到我们的频道，跟我们聊一聊呢他在世运上面的观察。我的生活实验室的列车又重新启动了，所以在我的生活实验室的活动里头，我会帮助大家能够了解，在你的星盘里面，你的人生的优先次序在哪里，以及你要如何不再执着于你的困难以及缺点，还有你要如何能够不受社会价值的捆绑，并且能够拉出与他人的边界。Hello， Yeah, Mary, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you too. You're looking very well.
Okay, thank you. I just made a facial spa.
Very good, very good.
Okay, and since I invite you today, it's because I know you are very experienced about the mundane astrology. And so, because recently we know there are so many planets, they change the different signs at the same time. And so I think that it will be a very, very big change for the whole world. So I would like to know what is your opinions, what is your research for the recently the planet shift?
Thank you, Cecily. I really think that you're on the right track because, as I said, the changing signs of the different planets. But the big statement we have for this year especially, and the next 2 years, is the beginning of a new Saturn-Neptune cycle.
Yes, yeah. We all know Saturn recently to conjunct Neptune.
Neptune, that's correct. So they have this little dance, like a tango. They get close, but not too close. They get further apart, and then they will come together in February next year, and they start a new cycle, which is 36 to 37 years long. The last time this happened was in 1989.
Okay. And especially they fall into Aries.
Exactly. Because the last time we had a conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Aries was a few hundred years ago.
Oh, wow.
And that was before Neptune was discovered. So Neptune was not yet in our human consciousness. It was up there, but we didn't know about it,
Yeah. Yes.
So it was discovered in 1846, and then it becomes manifest in our society, in our lives, and in the mundane world, in politics, in religion, in wars, and in treaties.
Yes.
So what I'd like to do, Cecily, if that's okay, is talk about Saturn and Neptune and the story behind it.
Yeah, I love to hear a story. I believe our audience will love stories.
We said, okay, if I share a slide?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will share my screen, and you can, or everyone will be able to see this. So I have called this talk Beyond 2026. The personal and the collective. But what I want to do is concentrate on Saturn and Neptune. So if we think about Saturn and Neptune, we have a symbolism, okay? So we have Saturn on the left that represents reality, the physical world, structure, oppression, and authority. And his symbol that he carries in his hand is of a size. A symbol of harvest, of cutting down, the end of the growing season. And Saturn's saying is, as you sow, so shall you reap. Basically, the seed that you plant is what will come up.
Yeah.
On the other side of this, we have Neptune, who represents idealism, illusion, dreams, disillusion or disappointment, and dissolution. That is the breaking down. And the symbol of Neptune is the trident, the fork. And if you can see, it has 3 prongs. And in Hindu myth, this is Shiva. Shiva has the 3 aspects of the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer. Okay?
Yes.
In modern symbolism, we can apply this to Neptune, where we have the martyr, the hero or the liberator, and the oppressor. Okay? So when we combine these 2 planets, we have some very, very important images that evoke something very special in terms of how they are experienced in the world. So if we look at that combination, the Saturn-Neptune cycle can often bring about the establishment of structures or structures that become the manifestation of an idea or an ideal. Okay. On the other hand, it can mean that structures that are no longer effective or that or lose their integrity are dissolved. Okay. So there is a sense of disappointment when authorities that you wanted to believe in are no longer there, you know, and so therefore embedded in all this is the notion of sacrifice, of separation, restitution, and dissolution. So that's the cycle. But the thing that also evokes something very special about Saturn-Neptune is the story I'm going to tell you. And this is the story of a young man called Orpheus. And Orpheus is a brilliant musician. He plays the lute, he enchants everybody, and everybody wants to listen to him. And he falls in love with this beautiful girl, and she's very much in love with him. And they have this wonderful wedding, and they go on their honeymoon, and then tragedy. She's bitten by a scorpion, and she dies. And Orpheus is devastated. He says, how can I live without her? How can I live without her? He goes around, he goes to the father of the gods, to Zeus, and he says, please, he said, I ask for one favor. Let me plead my case to the Lord of the underworld. Let me go down to Hades and plead to him. And so he is given leave to go to the underworld, because you need to have special permission. You can't just go there unless you're dead, So he appears in the underworld, and Hades is sitting on his throne. He's a big, big, big god, and he's very, very strict. And he listens to Orpheus, who says, look, he said, I can't live without her, and I am, I will do anything to have her back. And Hades is also touched, because he also knows what it is to love. So he says, all right. He said, you can take her back on one condition. Oh, what's that? He said, I want you to take her hand. And Orpheus is standing watching Hades. And he says, put your hand behind your back. And sure enough, he can feel someone else's hand in there. And Hades said, that is your beloved. However, he said, I will give you free passage to the surface, but you cannot look back. You must go to the surface, and you cannot look back. And so Orpheus is so happy, and he takes a hand, and he can hear her breathing, and so they walk up this very, very steep passages up back to the surface of the earth. And then, just as they're walking, the doubts seem to creep in. He said, what if Hades has played a trick on me? What if this is not my beloved at all? What happens? And the doubts and all that start to play on his mind, and he's still walking. And then he gives in to that, and he looks back, and she disappears.
Oh my gosh.
And so he experiences the grief for a second time.
Oh my gosh, even worse. Because he used to have a dream. Then this.
And suddenly, not only is the dream gone, but there's a sense of not just disappointment, but a sense of being, of having let himself down in some way.
Yeah, because he would think that is his fault.
Yes, absolutely. And so when he gets to the surface, he knows what he has lost. He goes around in grief and he's wailing and whatever. Finally, the gods take pity on him and they say, well, what can we do for you? He said, nothing, I have my beloved. And they get sick of him. So they send the fates. And the fates are the ones who take the consequences of actions. And because he has believed himself to be greater than a god in terms of thinking that, oh, well, I don't trust the god. So they tear him apart and he dies. He dies in pieces. And what happens? And that's where Saturn-Neptune comes into it. It is the sense of faith, right? The loss of faith, the maintenance of faith, and as a consequence, you either sacrifice, separate, or disappointment. So there's also that sense of, you have subverted the will of the God by looking back. You haven't obeyed, you have lost faith in something, and your restitution is for you yourself to be torn apart. This is the kind of essence of what Saturn-Neptune represents.
Okay, wow.
So it's very powerful, because you have on one side the structures and the authority of society, etc. And the other hand, you have the ideals, the illusion, but also the disappointment. So if we look at the Saturn-Neptune cycles over the last 200 odd years, what I will say is the most important one starts here in 1846, because this is the conjunction that happened just when Neptune was discovered.
Yes.
Okay, so Neptune was discovered round about 1846, and the conjunction perfected between 25 and 27 of Aquarius in that year. Again, if you look at the chart of the Saturn-Neptune, of the discovery of Neptune, it actually features a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So what does it say to us? It says to us that with the discovery of Neptune, it brings to the human collective the notion of an idealism, a collective idealism that perhaps was not present beforehand. Right? At the time of Neptune's discovery, there are all sorts of things that were happening that I suppose presaged a time of great social change for all sorts of reasons. Okay, for example, there was the opening of trade all within Asia, and then the Great Famine in Ireland, which caused a lot of people to die, but also 1/3 of the population of Ireland emigrated. So suddenly, you had all these farms that were abandoned. People just walked away because there was so much hunger. And what is also really interesting is that this is the birth of the Mormon religion, the beginning of that in America. You also have the first Congress of the Communist League, which started in London, because Karl Marx had left Europe and he was in London. He didn't publish his manifesto, but his ideas were already being discussed. For other people that are interested in this, you have the beginning, the establishment of the Vegetarian Society, an international vegetarian society, not just religious, but ethical or ideal, so something a little bit.
Yes.
And the introduction of chloroform to use for medical procedures, and literally all over the world there was a sense of revolutions, of people wanting a better ideal. And another mundane thing that was also about idealism but also illusion and disillusion was, of course, the gold rush that happened on 3 continents: in America, in South Africa and in Australia. Suddenly people were looking for gold because it was a way of getting out of poverty, of a sense of something to struggle with. Okay, so that gives you a flavor of the pursuit of these ideals, whether they were religious, political, monetary. There was a sense of people pursuing this. Okay, happy with that?
Yeah, I never think about that.
So that's how Neptune comes into our collective consciousness. And since then, we've had several conjunctions in 1882, in 1917, 1952, 53, and the latest, the last one, which is just finishing, I suppose, is of course the one in 1989. Now, in 1989, that is a more potent one for us because we know what's happened then. We experienced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's look at that. So if we look at 1989, it's a turning point in political history because in modern political history, because we have the dismantling of the Eastern Bloc in Europe. We have the breakdown of the Berlin Wall. Suddenly Europe is no longer divided.
Yeah, it's really huge. Yeah, when I look at the news, I'm even shocked. How can this thing happen?
Yeah, and suddenly you think about Saturn, like a wall is suddenly being pulled apart. People are going home with bits of stone. So it is quite visible. And also, on the one hand, you have the sense of liberation. On the other hand, you have people saying, we believed in this, but that's no longer valid. I met someone just yesterday. He grew up in Eastern Germany, and his family left just before they put up the wall.
Oh my gosh. So they just separate.
Yeah. And what I said, did you leave family behind? He said, yes and no. He said, my immediate family left, but I left behind cousins and aunts and uncles. So for whatever it was, 40 years or whatever it was, there was this barrier, which, was quite significant. Yeah. And then, of course, you have the dismantling of apartheid in South Africa. Again, that was a whole lot of things of different structures being broken down,
Yes, yeah. It's also a huge thing.
Absolutely. And then the other thing we have is the first commercial internet providers. So suddenly we have a structure in the ether that allows us to exchange ideas, to disseminate our opinions in a way that has never been done before. So this is quite important and quite significant. And I think we forget sometimes in our own thinking, maybe it's not that important. Well, it is, because Saturn-Neptune, what it does, the Neptune cycle on its own is very long. Okay? It's beyond one lifetime. So most of us will never know a full Neptune cycle. We might know half of it if we live to our 80s, but if we don't, we're lucky to get the quarter. Okay? So what the Saturn-Neptune conjunction does is it brings Neptune to Earth for us. It brings it down for us to understand what Neptune and what it represents and how it manifests both collectively and personally. Let's look at what collectively Saturn-Neptune brings for us. This is the chart for the exact conjunction in the 21st of February next year, And basically, Saturn-Neptune brings us a breakdown of earthly institutions. Therefore, if we have institutions anywhere in our life that are found to lack integrity, that are found to no longer have a structure that is relevant, institutions that have lied or that are based on lies, they break down. One really interesting one is, or the consequences of the actions of that institution are revealed, and suddenly people are saying, no, this is not what it was for. Why are you doing this? And then the breakdown happens. So there's a sense here of disappointment and disillusionment.
Yes. And it's kind of insecure because the institution always means it's like a regulation, very
security,
firm.
stability.
Yeah, security.
Yeah. You can. Well, we're always told you should be able to rely on the institutions to provide for you in some way.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's always the possibility of that with the Saturn-Neptune. So, again, watch out for that. There's a mastery and reliability of spiritual beliefs. So in some way, and I suspect that for a lot of people, there is a search for meaning. That is literally what it's about. How can I put meaning into my life? And how can I put meaning into my life that is meaningful? It's not just words, whatever.
Yeah.
How do I put it so that it works for me? And on a collective level, it's also about, the questioning of established spiritual or religious establishments, or even beliefs. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I believe, I think the more and more people will looking for maybe advice about astrology.
And I think this is one of the things that I think astrology struggles with, because a lot of people think that's my belief system, but astrology does not have creeds. It does not have dogma. It has rules, it has interpretation, but it doesn't have dogma. It doesn't say you must do da 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 da, or no. So I think that's one of the things that people struggle with, because I know, talking to some others, they say, oh, but I really believed in astrology and it let me down. And I always think, what did you expect of astrology that it did not give you? If you that's
Yeah, that is another question. Yeah.
So again, Saturn Neptune, whether it's astrology or Catholicism or anything else, if you believe in something that suddenly you're no longer getting something from, the question is, what did you expect from it and why didn't you get it?
Yes.
Saturn Neptune also shows up the vulnerability of leaders, because it's like suddenly they, I don't know if there is a term for it in Chinese, but when they talk about the statue with clay feet, a big statue, something that you look up to, but it has clay feet, so that the feet are not stone and clay, and so they are vulnerable. They are not sitting on something that is firm.
Yeah, I think it seems like we started to experience that.
Yeah. And therefore, we invest, as in any society, we invest faith in our leaders that they will, do the right thing by us. And when they don't, we think, they're weak, or they don't do this or whatever, and we just cast our ballot and say, out. Well, that's one of the ways you do it. Okay. The other thing that Saturn brings to light, and this is again quite interesting, is the increased presence of those who are vulnerable. Whether they are whether they are abused or invisible, anybody who, or any group in any society that has previously been invisible. Like in Australia, the concern for our indigenous people and the conditions that they live in and what they have to do. In a lot of other countries, it is people that are homeless or that are in poverty. We have the situation in Gaza, which is terrible. The situation in Ukraine, children are dying, people are starving. The situation in Africa. So it is that almost that sense of, it's not just about giving money, it is about actual active concern.
Yeah. Yes.
And finally, the other thing that Saturn Neptune does bring about in terms of the collective level is that it's a time of testing. It tests our resilience in terms of the Saturn. It tests our integrity and what it stands for, and the role models that we put in those positions, we are asked to trust. And if that trust is found wanting, if the integrity is found wanting, Then, as the phases come up, the square, the opposition, and the waning square, what we'll see is how whatever is born at this next cycle is going to come about. And given that it is born in Aries, we look at the ingress chart and we take note of Mars, because Mars is a dispositor of this conjunction.
Yes.
Mars is in Aquarius at 22 degrees. And its tightest aspect, the tightest aspect it makes is a sextile to the moon.
Yes.
All right. And it also disposits that moon. So I would suggest that this particular Saturn-Neptune cycle is very different to the previous one. The previous one occurred in Capricorn. So Saturn was in its rulership. This time around, this Saturn-Neptune cycle, Saturn is in its fall.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a very, very bad situation.
Actually, it's very challenging. So what I would suggest that when we see the unfolding of the cycle, and because the closest aspect of the dispositor of that Saturn-Neptune is the moon, we will see probably in the first quarter, which is about 9 years, overall, we will see that the testing of resilience and integrity becomes a really underpinning issue. It will cause an instability until people collectively face the challenges of how we actually are able to not just judge integrity but enforce it. How do we make people responsible? How do we make our leaders, right, tell us the truth?
Yes.
So that is collectively what we're looking at for Saturn-Neptune.
Wow. It's a very, very wonderful presentation. Yeah, I didn't expect that, Mary, you did a lecture presentation for us. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for today's your present. 那非常感谢 Mary 老师在今天的这个影片里面帮我们做了这个土星跟海王星它的这个汇合的一个循环的阶段，然后它对于整体的世界所产生的一个变化影响。那 Mary 老师所讲的这些内容相当的精彩，我相信呢大家也很期待还能够听到更多的内容。那我们会在下一支影片继续从同样的角度，但是它是针对个人面向来去做分享。那如果你喜欢我们这一支影片的话，欢迎你可以分享出去给更多人看到。那如果你想要学习更多有关于占星知识的话，欢迎你能够关注塔塔星空凝视占星学院。那我们下次见喽，拜拜，拜拜，
拜。